Question number 13. Which of the following structure is derived from the mesonephros in male? Seminiferous tubules, rete testis, vasa efferentia, and epididymis. Getting to know what I'm drawing here, it's the embryo in a transverse section, the dorsal portion of the embryo. Here you find is the developing spine, and here you will find is the dorsal aorta, peritoneum. Make sure what I'm trying to explain is about the swelling on the two sides of the dorsal aorta, vertically along the length of the developing embryo from the cephalic to the caudal end, and this is called the nephrogenic cord. It's derived from intermediate mesoderm. To make it a little more clear for you, this swelling actually brings about these type of changes like this. This green color portion what I have drawn here is going to develop into nephrogenic cord, which actually in vertical portion here I'm drawing is vertically is like this, both the sides of the dorsal aorta. This has been divided into three parts. This is pronephros. This is along to the cervical and dorsal region. This is mesonephros along to the lower thoracic lumbar region, and this is metanephros. This is along to the lower lumbar and sacral regions. So these are the two cords, nephrogenic cord extending from the cervical to the sacral region. Here in the middle you have this dorsal aorta. Then lateral to that you find is which encloses this duct, and this duct is called mesonephric duct. And even lateral to that there's another duct, and this duct is called paramesonephric duct. This paramesonephric duct is also called Mullerian duct, while this mesonephric duct is also called Wolffian duct. As a general point, let me tell you that mesonephric duct actually it's going to develop into the ejaculatory pathway, the tubular. Because there's less of space, I should summarize it here. Sometime I'll teach you all it in detail. Tubular ejaculatory pathway of semen and tubular excretory pathway of urine in both male and females. So what will it derive into males? It will develop into epididymis, then vas deferens, seminal vesicles. Actually, seminal vesicles are just like evagination from vas deferens. So the same lining epithelium is there, and then ejaculatory ducts. All these structures mentioned here, they derived from the mesonephric duct. Then in case of both male and female, there's a ureteric bud that arises from the lower portion of this mesonephric duct. So it develops into minor calycis, major calycis, then renal pelvis, ureter, and trigone part of urinary bladder, as well as part of that prostatic urethra posteriorly that also is being developed. From this prostatic urethra that will evaginate and will form the inner zone of the prostate. So right now we're talking is about the structures derived. So now talking about structures derived from paramesonephric ducts. Mullerian duct. This actually participates in forming the female internal genital system that includes fallopian tubes, uterus, and upper portion of vagina that develops from paramesonephric duct. In males, of course, paramesonephric duct, the upper end will persist as the appendix of testis, that's called rete of Morgagni, and the lower end of the paramesonephric duct persists as the prostatic utricle, which is like supposed to be the homology of the uterus of vagina in males. So now we'll be talking about the nephrogenic cord. So this nephrogenic cord you're seeing here on its medial side, this epithelium you're seeing on the medial side of the nephrogenic cord, this portion, I've drawn it in pink color. This actually is going to develop into a genital ridge. Now let's zoom this image of one side. This is the yolk sac. This is the gut. This is the dorsal aorta. Because I told you that initially the nephrons, the kidney, if you talk about the nephrons, they develop from pronephros in the very early stage of development. Then in later stages of embryogenic life, the kidney, the nephrons also develop from mesonephros. Later on, with the formation of the definitive kidney, it starts developing from the metanephros. So the adult human kidney develops from metanephros. However, it's said that the ontogeny repeats phylogeny. So in case of human embryo, because in the early stages of embryogenesis, pronephros is one which is forming the kidney, but still it's said that the cyclostomes, the fishes, they have the kidney being developed from pronephros, and the lower vertebrates are called anemniotes. They still have the kidney, functional kidney being formed from mesonephros. So that means the human kidney, and during its course of development, keeps repeating its ancestral origin. That's called ontogeny repeats phylogeny. Now we are back to this development of the testis. So remember what I was saying is this coelomic epithelium that thickens here in this region, the medial side of this nephrogenic cord. Basically we're talking is now about the mesonephros. This means the section which I've drawn is at the level of the upper lumbar region. This actually what I've cut here is the green color thing. This portion is the mesonephros, not pronephros, not metanephros. This is mesonephros. So this coelomic epithelium, when it forms this genital ridge, it actually forms new cells dividing and approaching towards this mesonephros like this, and these are called sex cords. And mesonephros itself also, as I told you before, that it was formed in the kidneys, means the nephrons. So they also have these tubules there. Mesonephros also has these tubules. In fact, this tubular formation will be present in pronephros, mesonephros, metanephros. But accordingly, during the basic stage of development, finally the kidney develops from metanephros. But in this region of the mesonephros, some of these tubules, mesonephric tubules, they persist and they will now participate in formation of the testis. Actually, these sex cords later on they get canalized. So when they get canalized, they form the seminiferous tubules. And the cells surrounding to them, they will form the sertoli cells as well as granulose cells. Then later on what happens, there was this mesenchymal cells surrounding, right? Mesenchymal tissues. These mesenchymal cells, they invaginate and they separate out this sex cord which were being formed from the epithelium, mesothelial epithelium, and they get separated. So that separation by these mesenchymal cells leads to formation of tunica albuginea. So that's how this sertoli cells and all the seminiferous tubules, they all get encapsulated in a fibrous sac, that's tunica albuginea, formed by this mesenchymal cells. And these mesenchymal cells, they also get spread in between these sex cords like this. They start growing and proliferating in between these sex cords. Mesenchymal cells of the nephrogenic cord, they will form tunica albuginea, and of course they will also form the interstitial cells of Leydig. In the testis, there's a mediastinum called mediastinal testis. So that mediastinal septa is also formed by this proliferating mesenchymal cells. And don't forget one more thing about this seminiferous tubules which were being formed from these sex cords. They also cross to this, part of that seminiferous tubules remain here in the lobules of the testis, but part of them, they cross the mediastinal testis and reach into, they actually form a plexus here. Let me draw in the pink color. So they form a plexus here. And the plexus is separated by this mediastinum formed by the mesenchymal cells. This is mediastinum, and which separates this meshwork of tubules separated by this mediastinum and this forming the rete testis. So seminiferous tubules, after crossing the mediastinal testis, they reach there in the medial portion of the testis where they form a plexus, and that's called rete testis. Now rete testis are also being formed by the canalization of the sex cords. So all of these colors I have used to mention the structures derived from different portions of this nephrogenic cords. So I hope you've understood about this origin of different types of cells. Now lastly, what remains is mesonephric tubules. These mesonephric tubules, they will form efferent ductules, which is also called as vasa efferentia. So vasa efferentia or the efferent ductules actually communicate the rete testis to the epididymis. And the blue color I had used in the first diagram. So remember, it's here, this is the mesonephric duct. It's here, there is the paramesonephric duct. So these light green colored thing which I've used is for the formation of vasa efferentia or efferent ductules, which communicate the rete testis to the epididymis, because epididymis will be formed from mesonephric ducts. I hope you've understood the answer by now. So which of the following structures derived from mesonephros in males? Seminiferous tubules, from canalization of sex cords. Rete testis also form canalization and then anastomotic network formed by the anastomosis of these canalized sex cords. And epididymis was being formed by mesonephric duct. Vasa efferentia is formed from the mesonephric tubules or mesonephros in males. The answer is vasa efferentia, which is also called as efferent ductules.